Hello, everyone. Welcome back to You Manifested That podcast. And in today's episode, I'm inviting Jane Dudley. She's the founder and owner and CEO of Thrival. And it's an immense honor for me to make an interview with her because she's an amazing woman. I was very lucky to meet 5 years ago in Mexico. And we went through many experiences, different timeline and everything. And she's a woman in tech, and for me it's very important to present her project, her company and everything. So thank you so much for being here today, Jane. I'm so happy to see you again.
So happy to see you. What a treat. Yes, let's pretend we're on the roof in Mexico on the beach. Have a
we are
fun conversation.
we are on the roof. Okay. So I know your past, I know your story, I know how you grew up, but I need you to tell this story to people because it's gonna be amazing. Where did you grow up and how did that affect the person you became today?
I grew up outside of a tiny town in southern Alberta, Canada, and my Mormon ancestors settled it in 1850. And so I grew up in quite a bubble. All I knew was this culture, and it was, infused with generations of this culture. Plus, it was we had a farm and ranches around, and so um, a lot of wonderful, wonderful aspects to who I am that I take forward from that experience growing up Mormon, very Mormon, and then many that I moved beyond, just weren't my path, that felt limiting to me. What my life was like, well, I was brought up from a young age on a ranch. This is a great thing, farm. During harvest season, time to bring in the harvest, and everything's set aside because my ancestors in Canada, it's freezing cold, and you die in the winter if you don't bring in the ancestors in the harvest. So it's a survival thing. So again, everything's set aside during harvest season. Even while I was growing up, even ego set aside. That the owner of the farm would make sandwiches at 3 a.m. to take to the combine driver, but we would bring in the harvest. And this ethic in life of what I focus on, there's a commitment to, there's a devotion, and that I've brought forward in my life that impacts relationships and business and all sorts of things, and family loyalty. Growing up also in a small town, there were 40 kids in my high school. And so you don't swipe right if things get uncomfortable or find new friend groups. I mean, you grew up and you learn how to lean in and communicate and work through differences and accept differences and love anyway. And tolerate because that's all you got. And those primal instincts to belong to tribe or you die is very real. And so the downside of that was that I learned very, very early how to fit in and how to mold to what was expected of me, how to behave in order to be included. And so learned how to live my life through a filter of shoulds, how to please family, how to please community, how to please church, how to please God. And I remember saying for years, oh, I'm going to be super valiant in the church so that I'm God's favorite. And really believed it, even as an adult, for many years. And what the downside of that was, I didn't know who I was. I was living through a filter. And so anyway, late 90s. And I was brought up to, I have 6 children, and I went to college, but it was to enhance my home, not to work outside of my home. I was brought up not to work outside of the home and to obey my
from the world. Yeah.
obey my priesthood leaders, my husband and church leaders, and be supportive of them and nurture and the family, and learned many homemaking skills. I can do a great organic garden, not that I choose to or want to now. But anyway, raising 6 children, and it was a lot. But the beautiful thing also with the church, when I was 12 years old, I started being trained as a leader, I had leadership qualities. So from 12 years old, I was trained until I was 45 when I left the church in leadership, and had a lot of leadership callings in the church. I say callings, it's all voluntary, you don't get paid, but had global reach in my impact and travels and public speaking and leadership. Um, and so I take that forward appreciatively, but it was always in support of the priesthood and limiting, and nothing outside of my home. I'm an entrepreneur, so I would start businesses, and they'd just go outside of my home really quickly. They'd expand because that's a gift I have. And countless times I'd have to quit because no success will compensate for failure in the home. Was something that we were told and brought up, and mothers go home, nurses go home, etc., over the pulpit by the prophet. And I obeyed. I was valiant because I had such a deep need to be approved and belong. And I saw how that worked. And if you didn't, you weren't included. And you were on the outside. It was impossible for that to happen for me. And so fast forward, I'm asked through a church-led nonprofit NGO to go to the United Nations in the late 90s to advocate for pro-family international policy. And I was very, very thick in the church at the time. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to go save the world. And I go to the United Nations, and I'm on the plenary floor with James Dobson, Focus to the Family, and hand in hand with the Catholic Church, and direct calls to the Vatican and with these people. And in order to be effective, I was taught through leadership, you seek to understand and then create bridges to be understood and have impact, right? So I was at the United Nations. I'd go and have conversations and be curious about the most radical thinking and behaving people I could find at the United Nations, so I could seek to understand and out of my bubble, right? Being kept so busy with children and church leadership and etc. Even though I wasn't living in that small town anymore, I was living in the United States most of my adult life. I was so busy that that's the only bubble I knew until I went to the United Nations. Let me back up 1 second. No, there was an absolutely huge defining moment for me, and that was this. Just a few months before I got asked to go to the United Nations for this advocacy adventure, I was in my living room, and I got a card in the mail, and I opened it up, and it was a picture, a photo of one of my cousins from Canada and me when we were like 4 in the back of a seat of a car with other cousins, and my head was thrown back laughing, my mouth wide open, which is a common thing, and laughing my head off, right? And I went, oh. And then this sinking, horrific sadness, because it occurred to me that I couldn't even remember the last time I'd laughed.
Oh, no.
It had been a couple of years, probably. I mean, as a matter of fact, I couldn't even access what laughing was like for me. And this panic, this, oh no, and this little deep thing inside of me, it was like, let me out, let me out. It felt like, Little Mermaid, when the sea queen has those people like hardly any life force at the bottom of the ocean, and they're just kind of barely life force there. And I felt like there's that little me in me going, let me out, let me out. And I remember physically looking around the living room with my mind going through my Rolodex, who I know in the world. And I'm like, who can come save me? I'm dying. Like, who can come save me? And like my husband, no, my father, no, my family, no, my friends, no, anyone in the church, no, anyone in the world that I knew, no. And it was this sinking, heavy weight, hopeless, no one to save me. feeling just weighed on me. Yes, and there was something inside of me that sparked, and it was like, oh, what if I save myself? And this light just started beaming from me. Whoa! I still have shivers. What if I save myself? What if I'm who's here to save me? It was a defining moment, and I didn't know the trajectory. I was still very much in the church, very much indoctrinated in only that. It's the only way to God, and I had no clue where it was going to lead me. That little change in the railroad track, and I did decide in that moment to take full responsibility of my life and lead it. No matter what happens, no matter what anyone thinks, I will be the leader of my life, because guess what? I'm the only one
No one is gonna
that's
come.
going nobody's going to come save anyone. There might be a temporary little that whatever's, but not really. So I committed to be the leader of my own life no matter what, and start saying yes to things. And a few weeks later, I got asked to go to the United Nations. Little did I know that, and I didn't know at the time, even though I was a passionate studier of quantum theory. It fascinated me. Little did I know that getting out of context of normal life, and that the density of the energetics of normal life actually create new neural pathways, which allows for neurogenesis or growth or evolution in a very rapid way. And so that was my path for the next 10 years, was just experiences way out of context of my bubble, where I went, whoa, in a conversation with someone who has a very different worldview than me that I absolutely did not agree with. Like, let's legalize pedophilia at 10 years old for children, things like that. But there were a whole spectrum in between that and where I was at that started shifting my worldview. And after a year or so of being at the United Nations, many conversations, and working out of the United Nations in different conferences and around the world at conferences, and interactions with people in different countries, I changed my worldview. And I continued to go to the United Nations, but not with Mormon led organizations, and did my own thing. And so I no longer, so I just started this path of experiences outside of context of normal life that unhooked in my brain. Oh, I don't believe in that. Oh, nope, I don't believe in that. Oh, I do believe in that, but a little different twist of it. And it was several years of that, but I just kept it to myself. I kind of stayed in the closet about my beliefs shifting, because I'd seen growing up what often happened as far as people being not included on the outside. I had 5 kids. I had one pass away, so 5 kids I was raising, and a husband, very much in the church, right? Active in the church and leadership and public speaking, and just this process, unhook, unhook, unhook. And I was, fast forward to 2007, I was in Nairobi, Kenya, started going on the ground in countries where governments and NGOs and corporations would ask me to go and assess different things, and related to sustainable development. A lot of my focus was around children's issues and well-being, HIV/AIDS prevention, education prior to, when they were young, and etc. So I was in Nairobi, Kenya, and I had some executives from a corporation in the United States meeting with some government officials, and they were over there. And George Njanga, George Njenga, no, George Waiganjo Njenga, who's Kikuyu, would handle logistics on the ground for me when I was in Kenya. He was just a sage. He slept in a mud hut sometimes and would drink cow blood. But anyone, didn't matter what station of life or title, just craved being around him. He was just a sage. Anyway, he came up and he brought to me a cup of tea. And he said, we were figuring out the logistics for the afternoon. And he said, would you like a cup of tea? And I said, oh, and I just kind of went into the rote thing. Boy, Ganja, if I drink that tea, then I won't be able to have a recommend to get into the Mormon temple. And if I can't get into the Mormon temple, then I won't be able to keep my covenants. And if I can't keep my covenants, I won't be able to be with my family and God forever. The second I said that, it was one of those unhooks. But this was the final unhook. It was like,
I'm done.
and I realized a cup of tea to being my eternal expansion. What? And he said to me at the same moment, he said, you mean if you drink this cup of tea, you can't be with God? Do you think God would create it that way? And I went, oh, boy, Ganjo, I would love that cup of tea. So, anyway, so I went home and came out of the closet about not being Mormon, right? Can't go anymore. Anyone, my family who wants to go, I'm supportive. I'm just out of it. A few days later, my husband of 20 something years asked me for divorce and wanted to be in the church and walk hand in hand in the church. He still is, and happy for him. And we freed each other, right, on our paths. And I'll be forever grateful for him for having the courage to do that. I say I would never have broken up a family, but I don't know at some point how that would have looked. But anyway, grateful for that. So then I'd never worked outside of my home. But I'd had a lot of experiences in the leadership capacity, mostly being a mom, waiting.
That's a
you
full-time
know,
job.
yeah. And I'll tell you, it's been my greatest asset in business, which I'll share in a minute. But um, uh, I didn't know how. I knew how to be in a Mormon, but I didn't know how to be out in the world. It was like,
Yeah,
whoa, I don't know how to do this.
like a newborn.
And my worldview had shifted through quantum theory and a unified field and being an aspect of the whole, and we're all in an interconnected live art installation in this eternal now with our hands all in the clay, right? And I had that perspective, right? There's no past. It's existing now as memories in the now, and the future is a bunch of potentialities in the now. So all that's existing is this eternal now and now and now and now. And so this life became less linear, except when it wasn't. Because just because there's an awakening to understand something like this doesn't mean I still have belief systems, and there's still rungs of the spot. Well, apply it here, apply it there, apply it here. As a matter of fact, 2 nights ago, I was like bawling my eyeballs out with another ring of the spiral of some childhood thing, just unhooking beliefs that are limiting, right? Well, we expand our perspective of our vibration, and whatever's out of tune with that in life, or the lower, denser beliefs, comes up to be resolved. And boy, I had a deep one. So, I don't have it figured out in the process. And
People are.
What I do know is this: I'm here having experiences now, and I'm in a sentient vessel, so I might as well feel a lot about it. And so for me, the object of the game is not to just feel love and joy anymore. It is excuse me, I don't know if I can say this, what a fucking honor to be here experiencing and feeling things about them. And it waves through. We're not, unless we keep regurgitating miserableness, we allow it to wave through, and we touch on it, and we visit it with who we are now. It resolves it. And then we have all of that energy that we can alchemize and put toward new creation. So it's this constant state of, ooh, wobbling, and then gathering all that, touching on it, feeling it, gathering all that energy, and alchemizing it, recycling it into what we do choose. So yes, feel, don't emotionally bypass. And the other night, I sure as hell didn't. It was fucked. But I knew it was important. It was a deep thing related to my dad and church stuff and whatever, right? So allowed it. And I don't feel those things very often, but it sure was there. And a recent breakup and related to that, right? And I was like, wow, there's so much pain. And went there, and I don't know, there's a more buoyance in my life now because I've got that, I'm aware, and I've got that energy to go forward and create with, and consciously choose with a steely mind to wobble back and focus beyond the old that doesn't even exist anymore to what it is that I do love to tune with and create and manifest. Okay, so that was a 10-year process figuring that out, and I'm still figuring it out. And
Everyone.
yeah, my kids and I figuring that out. And, we were on the outside then, and it was scary out in the world. And I didn't know how to create community. It had always been there. I didn't know how to, you know, and I didn't know how to make money.
How did
And
you end up in tech?
so that's my story as far as getting here and now. And you wanted to discuss how I got in tech, which you just brought up, which brings me to that. I got divorced and I was like, how am I going to make money? And I didn't take alimony or child support. I was like independent. I'm like, I'm free. I'm going to be free, and I'm going to be not limited and not walk away from startups when they come up. I'm not going to quit because I need to stay. I'm going to do what I feel like doing, and my hands in the clay, and express in my fullness what my heart loves. And I'm not going to limit myself or even put it out there that I would be needy to receive alimony or child support, which was dumb, by the way. I should have done that. um, anyway, that part wasn't maybe not wise. It was a little zealous because I didn't have experience making money. But I also am a creative, and the world is small. The cosmos is accessible for me because of all of my quantum theory studying. So I don't know. I got in a flow state. I was with my oldest son over dinner, and we just like for an hour back and forth this download of this mobile metaverse, which I didn't know what that was at the time, but this augmented reality world, this platform where humanity could collaborate together in playful ways that have a positive impact, that are supporting sovereignty and the organic technology in life and the expanse, and that tech was a support of the awakening and accessing of more of our dormant DNA, but doing it in playful ways. And so interacting and socializing, and this is 12 13 years ago we've been doing this, so it was way too early at the time. But this whole download came, and it was like, I didn't even like tech. I would pretend that I didn't know how to put a DVD in the DVD machine with my kids because I didn't want to be doing it all day long. So they would do it. So it was the joke of my whole family, still is, that I have a tech company because I didn't even like using it. So, but it was like, holy shit, Addie, we're starting a tech company or an online media company. And so then huge learning curve, right? And I've done startups. So I was really interested in showing my son how to backfill a company, right? So let's file patents and let's, build a business here, network and get advisors and raise money and all of the things. Well, our technology was way too early, but compelling to, significant people in the industry. So I've had a lot of really great input along the years. But the beautiful thing is we have filed patents that are now foundational to the emerging 3D internet and metaverse. And not metaverse like Mark Zuckerberg has claimed the brand of. Metaverse is just any layer of data that's a meta layer over reality. So an augmented, Mark Zuckerberg's platform is a virtual reality. Initially it was a platform where you put glasses on and it's all made up and represents things in life, but you're not looking at real life. And if you got up and walked around, you'd walk into a wall. So it's like being plugged into the matrix, kind of getting swallowed up into that. And early, we just knew our whole tagline is look up, because we incentivize people to look up and at each other and at life with more meaningful and exhilarating ways to interact. And so there's digital information, everything online that you'd ever want to research or do is superimposed over your view of the real world. And so that you're not nose in the phone, you're incentivized with reasons to connect with people, and it's gamified. So we turn people's daily lives into a fresh and compelling game that gets people interacting in life again, and also sovereign. And also we engage AI in ways that are supportive to the sovereign expansion of organic DNA and technology in our DNA, and accessing those dormant aspects and our superpowers. Ultimately, you may have heard of flow state, which is studied in athletes and creatives, and where a mother can push a car off of a baby, or an athlete is so immersed in the moment, nothing else exists. There's not, are we going to win or not? Or nothing in the future, nothing in the past, just completely immersed in the moment, deciding, acting simultaneously. It's called flow state. And it's a superposition. And so it's a quantum state of being, largely. And we access those aspects of our immortal DNA. And it's a studied thing. And so we gamify people's capacity to be present in a flow state in casual, social, gamified ways. And so it's something I've just been passionate and devoted to. And it's a startup and a huge learning curve and a big lift. And people are like, who the hell are you? At this woman my age who's, 6 kids, no work, experience prior as far as making money work. and this advanced high tech, ahead of its time, but where life was going to go, resonated. People knew it was big thing. And as a matter of fact, you wanted me to share about this. I
Yeah,
was
like
sitting with
how men like react when they see you, how people, because we live in a men's world, so in tech especially, how did they how it happens?
yeah. Well, I was explaining to someone in Seattle, a very known large investor, a venture capitalist. And so an introduction, and I went to meet with him. And so I was communicating and sharing that, it's like you download this app and it's like stepping through the wardrobe into Narnia, this augmented reality world where you can search anything on the internet and it will show up like holographically, where's restaurants near me, and it will just show up augmented on, or where's friends near me, or I can create 3D content and send it to my friends like a dancing ostrich with a message that's 3D. They get a notification on their phone and open it up and it's a 3D ostrich, or them like a video standing there like in Star Wars, or whatever. Anyway, so we can access anything online and each other, and it's this whole metaverse, but it's mobile. It's explaining all of this, and I looked over at him and he's like looking at me, and he said, wait. And he said, this is huge. And it's just like looking at me incredulously. And he said, and you have sparkles on your fingernails. and I laughed.
Coach.
And I just laughed because I understood. I compassion, it would be very unusual for someone my age and a woman and my history and sparkles on my fingernails to be talking about a high-tech, big deal. And I said to him, it is potentially huge. And you invited me here because of that. And it is what it is because I am who I am. And today I happen to have sparkles on my fingernails. Are you okay with that? And he said, yeah. And we laughed and carried on. And to answer your question about how are men with me in business, all I knew going into business was being, when there's something to get done as a mom, I just get in mom mode, right? Where there's gender's irrelevant. I'm not thinking about which of the kids are my male and which ones are female or nothing like that, or race or nothing like that, right? So all I knew was, in as far as how to get things done, was to show up present and like some mother energy, a mother archetype, and not like being bossy, bitchy, because I wasn't that kind of a mom. Just present, creative, iterative, collaborative, exploring ways to create an outcome that would be optimal for everyone involved. Because, of course, I care about the well being of everyone involved as a mom. So that's how I showed up in business. And literally, that is probably one of 5 experiences in thousands of meetings over the last 12, 13 years where I've had any gender anything come up. And when it comes up and has like that, or another time where I was asked, we were seeking as temporary CEO during a capital raise, because at the time I thought, oh, they know more and we need them. And I would consistently give up my power to experts, right? Which was really a not wise thing to do, even though you want expertise and be humble. But this was one of those. And I, sorry, showed up at the building, and it was the last meeting of the day. The building was locked, and this fellow answered the door, let me in for this meeting, for him to be a potential CEO, temporary. And I walked in, and he's like, whoa, I'm glad this is the last meeting of the day. We should go to dinner. And in mom mode, if one of my kids' friends were hitting on me, it's irrelevant. You just like, I'm not going to react. It's so ridiculous, right? I'm here doing what I'm here doing. So I didn't get charged. I didn't get bristled. I didn't react in any way, because there's nothing to react to. It was irrelevant to me. And I just refocus on what it is I'm there to do. So I wasn't angry. I wasn't anything. I just kept focusing on what I was there to do and walked to do the meeting. And we sat down at the table, and I'm about ways through explaining what it was. And he leaned forward and he's like, this is fucking amazing. Yes, I want in. And just like that, and leaned forward. And so I leaned forward and I said, no one in my company flirts with me.
Bye.
And he's like, I got it. And he did get it. And we did engage him, and he never, ever, there was a respect. I didn't get pissy at him. It was a matter of fact. And he got it. And it's how we emote. If I'm anticipating that I'll be treated unfairly, be paid unfairly, and if I'm going to be hit on, and even by not wearing sparkles on my fingernails, if I feel like wearing sparkles, there's an anticipation that I will be hit on, that there's going to be a masculine feminine dynamic I'm going to have to deal with. Just even that in my field and emoting that is exactly the dynamic that life is going to show up with. So as a woman, I knew, based on my quantum theory whole worldview, or based from that, expanded beyond that, but to take full responsibility, to show up and be radically authentic, bring quality to the table, and explore a mutually beneficial way forward, and be clear with myself and with life about what I'm okay with and what I'm not, and do it respectfully. I don't have to get all bitchy.
Oh yeah,
because life is showing up best that they can based on the modeling they've had. So it's about me as a woman showing up and showing life how to treat me.
Yeah.
And that starts from me anticipating being treated well.
I love so much the way you approach life. I love your perspective.
So that is, I don't have problems with men in business. As a matter of fact, I love working with men, and often women, and I have compassion, are often trying to prove so much that there's you know, there's that whole thing to deal with also, that's just as challenging as working with men in some other ways, right? So or can be. But I think just to show up in business authentic, witnessing life in full acceptance, and then exploring what we have to bring to the table together neutralizes the need for hierarchy. There is no hierarchy in a unified field. We just have different presentations. And like in a body, we're all different, you know, where there's all different cells in a body. There's a liver cell, there's brain cells, there's heart cells, whatever. If we were all brain cells, there wouldn't be a, you know, we need it all, and we need all of our differences. So full acceptance and nothing to prove. That's how I deal with men, or just there isn't a deal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love to hear you. Always amazing stories and everything. So I would like to talk about your tattoo. You have something very interesting. Can you explain to me what it is? You did
Yeah,
it in Mexico, right?
no, I did not. I got this one in Mexico.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
dot. This is 0 point, all in no play. Um, and this represents liberation for me. I, mm, you and I can be having, if everything exists in this eternal now, right now, right now, and think of cats and dogs, or cats that can see and hear in a bandwidth of light beyond what we typically can, right? It still exists right now, but it's in a spectrum or bandwidth of frequencies that I'm not resonating in, right? But it still exists, right? So, in light of that, life is not so linear, even though we experience the illusion of it being linear. It's actually going on right now. Everything. There's not a past that exists anymore, nor a future yet, right?
No.
We're creating the next now, which ends up being a linear illusion. So, anyway, you and I can have this conversation in this bandwidth of frequencies, right? Eternally, right? So this is that, but I put in this the geometric representation of increase, the golden mean or the spiral that of increase. So it just reminds me that in any moment I'm liberated and can choose to have whatever bandwidth of experience of this same moment that I choose to have. It can be miserable and negative and dense and hopeless, or I can elevate my frequency and access higher perspectives that are more expansive and feel better. That's the bottom line. Is it like water faucets? What feels better and what feels less better? Expansive or contractive?
I love it. Yeah.
That's what that is. Liberation.
I love it. It's so cool to see someone like you have this tattoo right here. It's so beautiful. Love it. Um, what is the best compliment that you have ever received?
Well, I liked that someone said, I really like your skeleton. But that's not cool. It's not my best compliment. The best compliment for me is for sure, hands down. And it often isn't verbal. And it is such an honor to be here in this eternal now, aware that we're all aspects of some whole, like a boiling soup of cosmic energy appearing and disappearing. And when I'm walking down the street or witnessing you right now, Paula, where I get to interface with life, another aspect of life that is part of the same whole, and that we all are this, aspects of each other ultimately, but to witness life, to truly have a moment and be in the habit of walking down the street, instead of looking down and away, look up
You see
and
the beauty.
at and witness life. So life just wants to be seen, right? And witnessed, and just witness it without, I like this, I don't like this, just awe and wonder. Oh, what a amazing part of life, right? For life to see that, feel that from me, and see that light up, honestly, my greatest joy, whether it's my kids, my grandkids, you, or strangers. And when someone verbalizes that about me is, I don't know,
Mm.
it's just an honor for life to feel seen by me. It's me my greatest purpose or gift for being here, which is also the motive of look up and at each other, of the tagline of the whole. Lumi is actually the world. Lumi, Thrival is the name of the corporation, but the Lumi world, which will be launched in probably about a year. We're still,
Nice.
building it.
Amazing.
I know, super excited. Humanity to look up and at each other in ways that are, being present, and yeah.
I never told you that, but you are the one who inspire me the most about respect, about honoring other people and being honored to be alive and to just witness moments with people and everything. You taught me that when I was in Mexico. You taught me a lot, actually. But
Oh,
this is a piece
oh,
of wisdom that I take because thanks to you, I understand presence, honor of myself, of life, and people with I share moments. So huge learning from you. Thank you so much for that.
don't we just learn from each other? I watched your thank you. I'm just going to receive that thank you. And I'm inspired by you in many ways too.
Thank you. So you are gonna launch Thrival in 1 year, something like that?
Yeah, we'll have soft launches prior. It's mostly built. We actually just put it on the shelf. The industry wasn't ready. It was too early, but we pulled it out, this last year, and have started building again. And it's excited. I was flat on the floor, literally, on and off the last few months because choice points in life, right, where it's not pretty sometimes, and you get hit in this gut by the loss of someone you love, or something, and you just life force dwindles, and you just, oh, I don't have it in me to do something, that's a big lift or big. And even though it doesn't have to feel like a grind or hard, but when we're in those constricted, low frequency states of being, everything feels hard and overwhelming and impossible. So I've had some real choice points where I've was deciding whether to put it on the shelf, be grateful for, and exhausted by over a decade of working on it, and the growth and learning, and that I just am in another phase of life. I just don't have it anymore, right? Or not, or continue on. And every time that has happened, and it's happened several times in the span of its development, just I believe in it, and I believe in its impact. And so just a couple of nights ago was another one of those. And it's like, all right, my heart is devoted. It's different than being committed with your brain. And I've been in stages of that too, where I've got investors and and I'm committed and I'm busily doing, but aimless. It feels like a grind. But when I tune into my heart with Thrival, and just the cool gift that it is, the cool creation, and the love of it, then my heart's engaged and I'm devoted. And then my hands are in the clay in that quantum eternal now. And then it's not a grind. It's not a hard lift. And when I'm tuned in with my heart, being perfectly authentic, in flow state, I access greater capacities. I show up with life, and life knows to trust me because I'm not insincere. And people want to be part of it. And everything in life, to me, if I boiled everything down to the most important thing for me, is being authentic, meaning expressing the pure essence of my unique signature of DNA, my pure essence of my heart. That's where all power is accessed. All joy, love, everything. Anything that is not that is limited versions of living.
You do have like a contagious energy, like a pure light, pure energy. Like anytime you speak, anytime you enter somewhere, I'm pretty sure people are like, just hold on. There is something special for you here, you know?
We all are that though. If we get into the habit of being authentic and giving no fucks about what life thinks about it, but from a place of being in a unified field. So we give a fuck about the well-being of life. Different. And we all have that charismatic, being authentic is charismatic. And we speak truth easily when we're in a flow state, pure authenticity or pure essence speaking. So I'm not always that way. You should have seen me a couple of nights and a couple of days
I
ago.
know.
Oh, it wasn't pretty. Yeah. But it's about the wobbling back in life. And it's about going, it's okay.
It's gonna be
we're,
fine.
we're messy also. It's okay.
Amazing. Do you have like any social media where we can find you on LinkedIn, on Instagram, your website?
The Thrival World website,
I will put the link
Thrival.
below. I will put the link below.
Thrival World website it's just a landing page, coming soon kind of a thing. My LinkedIn, Jane Dudley. And then on Instagram, I think I'm the Plane of Jane or Plane of Jane, PLANE, like energetic plane. It's where we each have our own signature, unique resonance of authenticity. So that's what that's about, the Plane of Jane. And
I will link everything. Oh, I'm so happy. Thank you so much. It was so much fun. Thank you for your
such an
knowledge.
honor. Such an
Always,
honor, such an honor.
always.
And as I told you, this is the first podcast I've ever been invited to be on. So I'm honored, Paula. Thank you.
Thank you so much.